What is up, guys? Here for another LGR review. If you don't mind, first time watching us, hit that like button and subscribe. Smash that bell thing or whatever down there at the bottom. But today is going to be another one of our series for the Wheel of Time. Me and Adelia, who have never read the book series, is like watching the show. And so far, like the first 3 episodes, I feel like it was enough to keep going. The 4th episode was pretty cool. And then we've had the next 3 episodes come out, 5, 6, and 7, and that's the ones we'll be discussing. If I'm not mistaken, Adelia, is this like an 8 show season?
I think it's 8. Yeah.
So like we only have one more show to go. So this is leading up to the finale and everything else. We'll start off with Adelia. Like, what do you think about these 3 shows heading into the finale?
I like these 3 episodes more than I liked the previous 4, especially episode 7. Episode 7 really, I thought, was the best episode we've had so far. And I liked that we finally got to see the White Tower. I like that we saw a little bit of the inner workings of the Aes Sedai. And I really like where this is headed with Moiraine, and you got a little bit more of her plan and motivations in these 3 episodes. And I really liked it. What about you?
Yeah, I did. This is one of those shows that's like not knocking my socks off. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not like watching it and going like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. But everything can't be the greatest thing ever. So like, but it's good enough that I've kept watching and wanting to see them. Is it good enough that I feel like as soon as they drop the new episode, I have to watch it? No, but everything can't garner that time. You know, like people love Hawkeye, for instance, and they're like watching it every second it comes out. And there's been shows recently that has been that way for me, where it's like, oh God, there's a new episode. I have to see it. I have to see it now. This is not one of those shows to me, but there's room for in your space for these kind of shows that, you know what, I might not watch it as soon as they drop it on Friday night, but I'll most likely watch it over the weekend or whatever, or a day and 2 passes. I mean, one of the only reason why we're doing the 5, 6, and 7 together like we are is because it's been very busy. Like we had for our show, for instance, we had like Spectacular happen where we were all gone for like basically a week, not at our homes and stuff. So all that kind of things. And no, there was no show on my priority list then while we were there. It was all about like having fun and doing the thing with that. So that's why we're having to do like these 3 jumbled up, because like time kind of passed. A couple episodes came out while we were gone. And then this last one, we was like, well, we might as well go ahead and wait until this other one drops and then we'll put it together. So, but with that being said, I do enjoy it. I do think these last 3 episodes are pretty good, pretty interesting. Like you said, we got to go see the White Tower. We got to see more about the Aes Sedai and like how they run themselves and stuff like that. Like you said, with Moiraine character, especially, there's like almost a full episode that shows you a little bit of the inner workings and how the Aes Sedai has like this member called the Seat. And that is the actual like, lead lady of all the Aes Sedais and everything else, like the ruler of the Aes Sedais at the White Tower. And we find out that Moiraine is like, I guess, dating or like, especially in a passionate love relationship. The Seat, kind of behind the scenes that people don't know about. And I don't think that anybody else, you know, in the show really knows about this relationship, because like the lady that's part of the Red Aes Sedai, I know she doesn't know, because she was doing the whole smirking, thinking that, oh, you're in so much trouble and everything else. And like, no, she ain't. Because like right after that, we see, you know, the workings of a sweet lovemaking scene between the Moiraine and the lead Aes Sedai, the Seat. But, and like I said, we don't read the book. So like, I don't know if any of this stuff is changes. And maybe if I read the book, maybe I'd be upset with some of the things. Like I do know they are changing, because our last episode, we did have people on there that was talking about like they have book knowledge because they've read the story, they've read the book, and they still kind of like the show at that point. I don't know if the changes keep changing, if that like affects their like outlook towards the series or not. I know I've seen some things on the interwebs out there that has been kind of negative, like it's from some of the big hardcore fans of the book. But like I said, it's just one of those things, because we don't have that experience. We're just looking at this series and this story like in this form. And I think it's a pretty interesting story. I think it has some legs. I'm more excited after watching these last 3 episodes. I'm more excited about the finale than what I was, like, say, after the 4th one, because, like, I agree with you, that 4th episode after the first 3 really kind of got me, because I thought there was some cool stuff in there, and then we got to see more of the lay of the land, like, in the next 3 episodes.
Yeah. And, like, I think one of the things that sometimes people don't appreciate about adaptations from books to stuff is that they're actually adaptations. It's not going to be straight word for word, scene for scene. It can't be. That's the difference between mediums of books and movies and TV. I think just from talking to people that have read the books that they've done a pretty good job of adapting them. I've heard it's very rushed, though, which also makes sense to me because it seems like those first 4 episodes, especially, we covered a lot of ground just in geography. Because, like, if Moraine had been out there for 2 years, as it was stated in either episode 5 or 6, she'd been out of the tower for 2 years trying to find the Dragon Reborn. Then how long did it take them to get from the 2 rivers all the way back to the White Tower? That had to have taken a very long time, and it seemed very quick in the show. I did like, finally we got some idea of a passage of time at the beginning of episode 5, where we had the funeral scene for Karenni, the Aes Sedai that died, and the other soldiers that had died in that battle. And then we had the credits, and then it went to 1 month later. Now they're at the White Tower. So that gave me a little bit of perspective about how far away from the White Tower they were then. It also feels like there might have been a lot of stuff that happened in that month that they skipped over for the show. But I do like that we ended up with all of them sort of arriving at the White Tower pretty much at the same time. Because then we didn't have to, like, linger at the White Tower while 2 of them were still trying to get their way there or whatever. I do like that the group ended up back together for the most part by the end of episode 6. And then, we had Matt is now not with the group. But then by the end of episode 7, Moraine and Rand have split off from the group too. So it was nice to have them back together for a little bit. But as is normal with fantasy stuff, the group doesn't stay together for long. It all gets split apart.
Yeah, one of the things about this is like, especially with these kind of, like, a book series that's so long, right? Like that. Yeah. I mean, that's like 14 books long or something like that. It's pretty. It's got a decent amount of books. It's got more than, say, Game of Thrones does. The problem, I think, is like, in books you can be very descriptive. In books you can linger on a scene for a lot longer because, like, they have the inner thoughts that they can put out. A movie can't do that, right? Like, and everything. So it's a little bit more tough for them to linger in certain moments. And because it's something that's a watchable medium and not reading, when you're reading, you're sitting down and you're like, okay, cool. Like, I love the descriptions of these places that they're going. Whereas in a visual medium, you're just going to see it. They can't describe everything. You're just going to see it on the screen, right? Like, so in a book where it takes you a lot longer to describe all these different things that's going on in these different towns, like, you can't really describe those in, like, a visual medium. You can show them to us and stuff, and you can make us possibly feel certain areas and everything else. So I think that's one reason why it feels rushed. Also, in books, you can take a lot longer to tell a story as far as, like, a personal story. Like, say the group gets together and they're hanging out, right? And there's, like, a whole chapter of them just, like, hanging out, like, at that in this episode that we just watched, they're hanging out at that bar, right? There might be chapters of them hanging out at that bar that you can do in a book, but, like, in a show, like, nobody, not nobody, maybe some people, they love the story so much they would love to have the visual of these people just hanging out at, like, a bar for a whole, like, episode basically, and, like, eating and catching up with each other. But in most cases, like, most of the fans that are going to be watching this, possibly not reading this book series or whatever, they'd watch something like that and turn it off, never to come back. Yeah. And that's some of the problems that you have when you adapt and everything. But like I said, one of the cool things about us watching it is we never read the story.
Yeah.
So I don't know what all happens in the books and everything. So I don't have that baggage coming into it. And with that being said, like I said, I still overall think it's a good series. I love the fact they got back with the I guess they're called the White Cloaks or whatnot. The White Cloaks. They get right there, and you have that one guy, like the Questioner or whatever they call him.
Child Velda.
Yeah, and that dude, he's pretty hardcore. which that was like a cool scene in that episode. And then you got to see some of the power coming from Rand's girlfriend and everything else.
Egwene, yeah.
And I still think we'll go to, like, you know, you brought up the fact that Moraine and Rand went off together, and I think this is a ruse. I still don't think Rand's like supposed to be the Dragon Reborn. I think it's just
or not.
I think it's a coincidence that he's got that cool story that we learned in this last episode, where his mom was a badass. That was one of the coolest looking things that I've seen in this whole entire series. His mom's pregnant with him, and she's on this hill. So I don't even know why she's on there.
Literally in labor.
Yeah, it's like she's going through labor, and these guys are trying to catch her and everything. And she's like, I guess, this badass warrior for whatever reason. So like, I would like to get more of her backstory to find out why in the world was she so badass. But she's going through here, basically having a baby, going through contractions, and still like killing these guys like one by one. And then she starts getting overcome by, like, she's got like 3 of them at once, and one of them stabs her in the stomach, which could possibly kill the baby. She goes to sit next to a rock after she kills the last guy and starts to give birth, and this dude shows up with a sword. And then later on in the episode, you find out that was actually Rand's dad, and he doesn't kill her. He actually takes the baby and goes away to the 2 rivers and everything else. Rand's story and this story added to Rand and everything makes it all like, yeah, he's something special, right? Like, and I do believe like all of these and the episode review that we did where we had our 2 friends that do read the books, they kind of explain, right, like that these 4 do have something special. Even if they're not the Dragon Reborn, they still have a part to play in some ways, and are pretty powerful in their own rights, where they can almost change the wheel as it turns, kind of thing, because of actions that they do. So they're all kind of special, but I just don't believe he's the Dragon Reborn. I just still think that that's too obvious. I still think it's the guy who they're the most afraid of, at least Moraine is, because she saw some of the darkness because of that blade and everything.
Oh, Matt, the one who's not with them.
Yeah, Matt. And like, so I still think it's him. I still think he's going to be the Dragon Reborn, just because he's not the obvious. He looks like he could turn evil and all this stuff, but I'm thinking to myself that the Dragon Reborn is supposed to make everything like good in the end, right? It's supposed to like break the wheel and like fix everything and make everything more equal, make everything better and all this stuff. Pretty much like bring peace to the galaxy, you know, that kind of thing. But I do think that like a person like that needs to be someone who could go both ways. Like, got to be this strict balance of overall good, but they don't just do, like, it's not just goodness. They have parts of both sides to just keep it balanced. And I think him with the blade and everything kind of proves that a little bit. So like, and there's like, you know, and there's this guy, like at the end of this episode, did you think that was Matt that came through the way there?
I thought it was Matt at first, but now I'm not convinced it's Matt. I don't know who it is, but I don't know like how Matt would have gotten through the ways.
If he would have gotten through it, that's another mark for me that he's the Dragon Reborn.
There's something going on with Matt for sure. Like, there was that moment when they were walking through the town in that last episode where Perrin thought he'd seen Padden Fane, which is the guy that was like giving Matt money for stuff that Matt gave him in that very first episode in the village. How would he be all the way there when they thought he died in 2 Rivers? I'm sure that he probably saw him. But like, that guy obviously had some sort of dealing with Matt. Like, does he know something about Matt that we don't? I'm not convinced that I know who any of them actually really are yet. I think Rand, I don't think that they'd necessarily be doing a ruse on who the Dragon Reborn is this close to the end of the season, but at the same time I can see it, because you can't just have him go to the Eye of the World, which is where he's going with Moraine, and end things. And like, either he does and it kicks off something that we're not anticipating because we didn't read the books and have no idea what's coming next. Or I don't think he's wrong though either, because I can't see them killing off Rand.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm pretty interested in as well, right? Like, so them two going off, does the other ones catch up with them before they get there, kind of thing? Does Matt somehow come out of nowhere, right? Like we don't know. Like, what if that was Matt? I did think the person that walked towards there did sort of look like they were wearing some clothes that Matt was wearing, like at least the same color, but I don't know if Matt's kind of this poor guy, like the boots and stuff the guy was wearing kind of throws it off a little bit because it looks like maybe those are fancier boots, right? And like Matt, like we heard Rand tell the story in this last episode, like, oh, well, he's been poor and stuff all this time. And he gives whatever he can to his friends and to his sisters and everything else. Like he does whatever he can for them whenever they got in that big argument and stuff, because, when they were through the way, they had all those like whispers and stuff coming to them. And one of the things was a lot of them got these whispers of like maybe their worst fears and stuff to try to stop them. And Rand was the only one that didn't get anything that would be like, stop. Like he did get like some bad news, right? Like she'll leave you and stuff like that again. Cause like it does go to that, like talking about, his girlfriend, I keep forgetting her name, but Egwene, his girlfriend in the series. But like, it wasn't like that was like, somebody warning you basically of like, oh, your girlfriend's probably going to leave you again. She's already did it once kind of thing. Like the rest of them were getting these like super big fears. But also in Rand's case, we find out that he was getting told he was the Dragon Reborn. I think that these whispers was misleading him on purpose, right? Like you're the Dragon Reborn and everything else. Like, I just think it's too obvious to have the one guy that's the best looking dude, the guy who looks like a warrior, the Captain America type, you know what I'm saying? Like, automatically be the person that's going to be the one that is the Dragon Reborn. Like, but, like from some of the stuff that like Sean and Kristen has said about this, that all of them still play these big pivotal roles. I don't know that the Dragon Reborn is like the most technical important thing in this. Agreed. Like, I think it's a part of a story plot. I think it brings everybody together. I think it gave Moraine like a job to do leading up to this thing and everything else. But if you think about it, almost every like sci-fi fantasy thing that has like some kind of like, oh, wait, there's a prophecy and there's this person supposed to be this, like in Star Wars with the Chosen One and stuff, it really isn't the most important thing. And a lot of times it falls into the background. Like it's not, there's a lot of other things that are way more important. Like the bond from all these like friends and stuff, I think it's going to be the most important part of the story, and not actually who is the Dragon Reborn, but it is kind of cool. Like it's like a mystery, like who's this going to be, who's going to be right or wrong, and everything else when it comes to it. I do know because of the books and stuff that we've heard about that I do not think it's going to be one of the girls, because I know in the books it was supposed to be the Dragon Reborn was supposed to be a man. And see, in this series, I don't know why they try to change that a little bit in the show, because like it does make sense for the Dragon Reborn to be a man, because like the women dominate so much so far in this land and world that we're in. Not saying that men don't have higher like places. Like in this episode 7, we saw the guy who rules that what do you want to call it? The Badlands, Borderlands,
Faldara, I think.
Yeah. So, but that gentleman, like obviously he's like kind of like a king there and stuff. So men do rule things in this world. It's not like they're total crap, whatever, like doormats or anything in this world. They still have power, like the Questioner and stuff like that I was talking about with the white cloaks and everything else there. But like the women do have the power, like truly, because they have the power. They literally can channel and do all this magical stuff with the White Tower and this Aes Sedai and all this stuff, where men can't do anything of that. Really and truthfully, the men can only be there to protect the Aes Sedai. That's like their job and everything else. But I do think because of the way of the layout of the land in this universe, it makes sense for the Dragon Reborn to be a guy, right? Because it's going to be something that's different. And it's kind of like what I said earlier. Men, when they channel, obviously succumb to the dark side of that, right? Like very quickly and stuff, like where they start hearing voices and everything, where women doesn't. I think women in this world are too pure, like, so they can't really touch the dark side part of that as much, or maybe even if at all. And like I said,
at least not that we've seen so far.
Right. And I think whoever is going to be so-called the dark one, right, the ultimate bad in this whole thing, is someone that can be able to channel from both sides, like the light and the dark. Like I said, bring some kind of balance to it to be able to overcome that. I do think that makes sense in the story and in the world, but I do think it's going to be one of the guys. I think it Perrin, but I don't think it's going to be Perrin because like we know he's like this specialty, like, and I don't know what the hell he is, like, because they're like, don't tell nobody, they'll come after him. He's like a wolf lord at things, but like, is that more to that? Is he like a werewolf in this like series? Like,
I don't know. I don't know what to make of Perrin. I mean, obviously we've got the golden eyes and he sort of like growls and stuff, and the wolves seem to follow his commands, or he can communicate with them or something, but I don't know what to make of that at all, except that makes me think that Perrin's not the Dragon Reborn.
I mean, think about it. The questioner wasn't even afraid of the Aes Sedai girl, the girl that could channel. He was trying to make her channel.
Yeah.
He didn't care. But when Home Dude stood up, broke those chains and stood up and had the eyes glowing and did like a little bit of a growl, he said, "What are you?" Yeah, he was like, bro, he was done. He knew the end was nigh. You know what I'm saying? And like all of a sudden you hear like the wolves in the background. That's one of the coolest scenes, I think, in these last couple of episodes as well, was the wolves coming out of nowhere and attacking basically that whole like community. Well, it wasn't a community. It was basically like I guess that'd be like maybe a battalion of their army or something, because it's obviously like cloaks, the white cloaks with the tents and stuff. So like they just travel around and do things. I don't know if they have their like own major base city. I'm pretty sure they do. We just haven't seen it.
I haven't quite worked out what the white cloaks actually do yet. Besides that guy tries to capture Aes Sedai and kill them. So
yeah, exactly. Like basically he looks at it as being some kind of like I guess like maybe they're against magic, period. They don't believe people should use it. Maybe they're like a group of people that think like magic has gotten them in this trouble. Like if it wasn't for magic, we wouldn't have to worry about all this stuff. So because of that, they hate magic and they try to go after it. And in this world, women are most of the time are the only ones that could use it. But like I said, I don't know if he even knew what Perrin was, but like when Home Dude gets up and does that thing, like he's actually truthfully scared. And that was something like that was really weird. You saw how badass he was like in the scenes before that. Then this happens and that's what worries him. So that's the crazy part, is like, what all can he do? Like I said, like, is he kind of like a wolf, but in human form? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's pretty crazy. So I don't think it's going to be him. So I do think it's going to be either Rand or Matt overall. I'm leaning towards Matt because he's not the one you look at and go, oh, look, it's going to be Matt. Like he looks like he's almost a coward. Then he looks like he could be a dark person because of the thing that was happening to him with the blade. Like he has a lot more things that are wrong with him. And usually in a lot of cases, that ends up being the person that ends up being the hero in most cases.
Yeah, and then when they had Logain, which is the guy that was the false dragon in episode 4, and they were parading him around Tar Valon, I think is the name of that city the White Tower is in.
Yep.
He spots Rand and Matt sitting there watching what's happening to him, and he starts laughing like a maniac when he sees them. So, like, I don't know what he's seeing there. Also, I think we figured out in the ways in that little flashback that Rand had when he was thinking things through after he talked to that seer Min that he can channel. Because if you watch carefully, Egwene thinks that she repelled that Trolloc with the one power, the true power, whatever it's called.
Yep.
But it was Rand that did that.
Yeah, that was the interesting thing to this. So men usually get this and start to go crazy, but maybe this is him first finding out. Like I don't think they go instantly crazy. It takes them over time. At first, they're able to use his power. Everything's fine. Then all of a sudden, they start getting that voices in their head kind of deal and all this stuff going on. So I think he's possibly at early stages of being able to channel, because there was multiple cases that showed where he like accidentally did it. Like when he broke down the door, like the lady made the thing, 10 men couldn't break down that door or whatever, makes that joke. And he breaks it through. Turns out he used some of that magical ability to be able to do that. Right. So, and I wonder if he is in control of that at all, period, or not.
I don't know.
Or if he's trying to just hide it all the time. Maybe he's afraid to like let people know he can do that. And I don't blame him, because like look at the only other person you've seen that was showcasing those abilities and powerful abilities, and that you know now he's like begging to be killed in a room somewhere.
Yeah, I think though that there's something to be said for the fact that Rand obviously has been channeling and he can channel. Maybe he can't consciously do it the way that like Egwene and Moraine can. Nynaeve seems to be able to channel. I'm not sure she's quite doing it consciously either, because she just sort of, when she healed Lan and everybody else at the end of episode 4, that was just like an explosion of power. But Rand doesn't seem to be doing this as something he's like purposefully trying to do. It seems to just be happening.
Yeah, that is the one thing cool about Rand is he looks like this, like I said earlier, he looks like the guy that you would assume would be the hero and everything. But the one thing cool about his character is he's not like, most of the time when you see a character like that, they're very boisterous, like, you know, confident in themselves and all this stuff. And I think he's like the total opposite. He just wants to live. Like, he doesn't care about none of this stuff. Like, you know, like, I don't think he cares that he might be the Dragon Reborn as much as some others might or would have or whatever. And I mean, look at how heroic he is. He is heroic. At this point, he is heroic because he thinks he is the Dragon Reborn. And he goes and tells Moraine, and he does that to save everyone else. Because he knows, like, if they could decide who was the Dragon Reborn and they could go in there and do what they got to do, then the other ones are saved. Because, like, that's the whole point. Is Moraine feels when they do this that, like, whoever's not the Dragon Reborn is going to die.
Yeah.
So, like, he does step up and he hears those voices saying he's the Dragon Reborn and everything else. But here goes the thing, though. I will say this, because we know that he can channel. Like, so you hear during that scene, like I was talking about with those shadows, and they were sending the whispers to everybody that was basically trying to make them scared and telling them bad things. And then it goes back to that scene later on where he hears the part like, "You're the Dragon Reborn." I'm starting to think now that he was getting the normal whispers that everybody else was, but maybe he just now is starting to get those voices. And one of the things those voices try to tell them apparently is that they are the Dragon Reborn. So maybe he's getting those from like his crazy voices in his head from channeling. Maybe that was something separate from the actual thing that was going on around them. Maybe those voices were telling him like, "No, you're the Dragon Reborn. Don't listen to this bull crap. Who cares about any of that? Like, don't listen to these like shadows or the wind or whatever. We're telling you right now that you're the Dragon Reborn." But that could be a falsity, just like the other guy that you were just talking about in like season 4, or not season 4, but episode 4, where he ends up getting captured and stuff like that. But he was extremely powerful, and there were voices telling him that you're the Dragon Reborn. We're the past dragons, and telling him that kind of stuff. So
yeah,
maybe that was the very beginning of him starting to do the insane thing.
Maybe. Could be.
So yeah.
I'm also interested in this. Everybody keeps telling Rand he looks like an Aiel. I don't know what an Aiel is. But
I think they got proven though with that story.
I think it's proven with that story. Yeah, but like, what is an Aiel? What he keeps being referred to as an Aielman. I want to know what an Aiel is. And like,
yeah, I'm thinking it's just like a place or a community where like basically like here on Earth, you know, like people are Asian or Arabian, you know, just whatever, right? According to where you are, like American or, you know, just any of that stuff, like according to where you live at, it's kind of where you're labeled. I think it may just be a label for like a certain group of people that live in a certain place. And maybe. Like, kind of like
I've sort of gotten the instinct that it's because of his hair color.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I was about to say right before you said that like kind of like Ireland is for Irish, and red hair people, like, you know, people just assume, oh, you're Irish if they see red hair. I think it's kind of the same thing, but now maybe there is something special to that, right? Like, so your Irish doesn't innately make you anything more than just human in a certain area. But maybe in this story, maybe that group of people are like something special, right? Above and just being a normal human being. That's something they haven't told us yet. So, and because we haven't read the stories, we don't know. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, I'm digging it. I like the series as a whole so far. And it's good. And it's better than most.
Yeah, I like that we've been getting little backstories for everybody. Like, we got that whole intro on episode 6 for Suan Sanche, who is the Amerlin Seat. Like
Yep.
she's obviously someone important, more than just someone who's important to Moraine. And finding out more about her just leads me to believe that we're going to find out a lot more about her, probably in season 2, because I can't imagine we're seeing her again in season 1.
Yeah, especially if there's only one episode left, and we do get that tell from the lady at the bar who could kind of tell some of the future. It was a very clouded future. It seemed like not very detailed, but she could tell some things. And she does tell Moraine that the seat's going to be their downfall.
Yeah.
I think somebody's going to find out their relationship is what I think is going to happen, and then that's going to be the downfall. Basically, like, what the hell are you guys doing?
It could be.
It's going to turn into a Bill Clinton situation. Like, what was you doing in the White House? You know what I'm saying? Like, girls, that's not what we about. Like, you're not supposed to be doing that. Like, because they have very strict rules. Like, and that's the thing.
They do. Another thing we found out in episode 7 is that Lan is apparently the heir to a kingdom that was overtaken by the Blight, which is that very creepy looking forest that Rand and Moraine are about to go through to get to the Eye of the World. I was not anticipating that Lan is like a king, basically.
Yeah, he should be at this time if like that place was still there. And like I say, he had nothing to fight for. There was a cool scene between him and Moraine. He had nothing to fight for. She gave him like something to fight for and something to die for. So like that's why he's with her and stayed true to her. They have a different kind of relationship than we see with some of the other like warders and stuff, because it doesn't look like there was that scene where they're kind of in that tub together at one point, but it didn't really look sexual. It was kind of like we're so comfortable with each other, like we can take baths together kind of thing. But it wasn't like they were super close or doing anything, like I said, with sexual tension. And then like the other warders we've seen, obviously, most of them like have sexual relations and stuff with their Aes Sedai, except for the Red Wind. But that's just because they don't have any warders. They don't like men, period. But like it is, I don't know if all the Blues are like this or if it's just Moraine in this situation where she respects him so much that like they don't have that sort of relationship. It doesn't feel like it's a rule against it, because like it just doesn't feel that way, that they can't do anything together. But like they have very much respect for each other, because she tells him that she likes her so that he would feel more comfortable if something were to happen. And then we obviously see what happens with him and that Nynaeve. Yeah, she's got that weird name. But like they get together. He basically like introduces her to what is kind of his family, even though it's really not his family. They did raise him and stuff. And then afterwards, you know, they have their scene. And he even asked her to stay and stuff. And she was assuming, like everybody else would, that, oh, like this is a one-time thing, because like he's a warder for Moraine. And, you know, obviously it's kind of like she owns him to a certain point. And then I think he like described it really good when he was like, no more than your group of friends here owns you.
Yeah.
Like basically he's there to protect her and keep her alive, just like she's trying to do for her friends. And it's the same exact thing, except he just has to do it all the time and more consistent. So yeah, I really like it. Like if I were to give this some kind of score, I'd say it's around like a 6.5, maybe a 7 as far as the show goes. Like I said, it's not like knocking it out of the park, but it could be one of those shows you watch we watched this finale, and if this really good, it's like, oh shit, this whole series really great. They built this up exactly like they should have. But yeah, I'm into this series. It's above the good line for me. Like it's right there in the area of borderline. Could be a great series. I don't think it's that yet. To me, it's still just a good series. I do, if anybody likes sci-fi fantasy, I definitely throw this out there for them to go and watch and give it a chance and everything else. At least make it to episode 4 in this. Like we watched episode 3. I was interested in a couple of points, but I was almost like, oh man, this might not be for me. Like I was borderline after the 3rd episode. Watched the 4th episode because we did the review, and I really liked the 4th episode, and then like kept going from there. So like that's the one thing I would recommend anybody. Do you have any like last comments or anything, like something you want to add here before we get out of here?
I think I'd rate this at like a 7.5. I think I like it slightly better than you do at this point. But I agree with you. It's not necessarily a great, you have to watch this immediately kind of series yet, but this is something I definitely recommend to people. And maybe it is the fact that the mixed reviews are coming from people who haven't seen the books that like it a little more than people who have read the books.
Mhm.
But I like it. I like it a lot. I'm really looking forward to seeing where it wraps up in next week's episode or this week's episode, depending on when you're watching this. And I'm looking forward to season 2 already.
Yeah, this is my thing. I'll say this is why I think me and you are a little bit different. It's that small gap between me and you.
Yeah,
Is that I like Lord of the Rings.
I love Lord of the
I'll
Rings.
say to a certain point, I slightly love Lord of the Rings. You love Lord of the
Yeah.
Rings. Like if Lord of the Rings was like a partner that you could have, you would be married like 5 times. That's how much you love Lord of the Rings. And this to me is a little closer to Lord of the Rings than say Star Wars.
Yeah, I'd
Right?
agree
Like it's
with
a little
that.
closer, even though there are similarities with like things in Star Wars where there being a prophecy and stuff like this. But this is closer to a Lord of the Rings style thing than it is to Star Wars. So that's why I don't think I'm at the level that you're at. But like I said, we're not very far apart. It's not
No.
like this huge gap. I'm not over here saying like, oh, this series is garbage. And I think that Amazon thinks they have something here because they did go ahead and I think they announced all the way through season 3. Like there's guaranteed to be through a season 3, I think, if I'm not mistaken, because
I've
Amazon's kind of came
definitely
out and
heard
said that.
season 2. I don't know if season 3 is 100% official, but they're obviously very happy with how it's doing.
Right. So even though a lot of the book fans may not be happy, they may be bringing in a lot of other things, like a lot of other
Yeah.
fans into the story and the series. And even though some things are changed and some things are different, like even with that being said, I think that like it still puts this story out that you love. Like say if I was a book fan, and maybe I'm unhappy because they have made a little bit more changes than I would like them to. I do think as a fan, like the Wheel of Time series, the Wheel of Time IP's kind of been lacking, right? Like Lord of the Rings and Star Wars and Harry Potter's of the world and stuff like this has gotten more play than the Wheel of Time. It's always just been the books. It's pretty much it. Like this is the opportunity for Wheel of Time to step out of that shell and step out of that book world. And if you're a book fan right now and you want to get more media and you want Wheel of Time to have more chances, I'm not saying like blindly just support it because it's Wheel of Time, but I would like to say to step back and kind of think about this because even though me and Adelia haven't read the books, it's giving us the chance to like see the story, right? Even though it may be a little different, it's still the main core of the story still there, right? From what we're hearing from our people that do know the books, yeah, there's some changes. There's a character that might be a female in this part or something like that. It's a little different. Maybe they're rushing it up a little quicker or something like that, right? Or maybe they're giving us stuff in different orders and stuff. But with that being said, the biggest thing here is we are still getting the core of the story, which make like I'm deciding like as we talk about it, I'm deciding in my head like should I got a couple of credits on Audible? Do I go and just go ahead and just bite the bullet and get the first Wheel of Time book
Yeah,
and,
I
and,
was
and give
looking
it a
at.
chance? You know what I'm saying? Like and see how I like the story as far as the books. Like it's almost got me there. I'm not there yet, but it's almost got me there. So my thing is like if you are a book fan, open your mind up a little bit and try to welcome in a lot of these people that may be new fans because right now you may not be getting exactly what you want. But we've also seen series that start out a little shaky and then turn out to be super great and super good, right? Like, so you had Game of Thrones. A lot of people think it's got shaky in the last season. Maybe this is totally opposite. Maybe this is a little shaky the first season just for them to start the story, but then they kind of catch their footing and go from here on out and start being super great. So that's one reason why I would say, like, just kind of like hold off, like, don't be super judgmental yet, but and just be welcoming to some of these new fans that may be coming in, and make sure that you tell them like, hey guys, you got to read the books, man. Got to read the books. Got to read the books, and you get more and more fans. And now you're talking about possibly like a movie series or something, right? Like something that you would love if you're a big Wheel of Time fan. Like, oh shit, they're gonna make like a possible movie series with this IP. That'd be pretty cool, guys. Like you'd have your Star Wars and like just like Star Trek, you'd have your movies and stuff like that. So yeah, just saying that out to those people. Like, you know, I get it. And like I said, don't follow something blindly. And if there's something like super tragic or super bad with this stuff, like I understand that as well. But try to be open to the new fans that may be coming out there. Because like your IP's kind of struggle just because it's only been in the book form. And now there's a chance for new fans to come in.
Yeah. I mean, I really, really want to read the books, but I also, at this point, I'm like not sure I want to read them until this series is over, because I want to be able to anticipate things and question whether things are going to happen or not without having that anticipation of something happening that then they change and doesn't happen that way or the way I was expecting it to, which I think is, again, one of the reasons why people need to remember this is an adaptation. It can't be page for page, scene for scene.
It couldn't be. It'd be take forever.
Yeah,
it'd take forever, and to a lot of new people, it'd be super ass boring.
Yeah, and like even if there's, you know, really strong beats in the book that are maybe one of your favorite parts of the book, I can also kind of understand why we skipped a month at the beginning of episode 5, because there might be some really cool stuff that happens in the books in that month, but if it's not necessarily 100% necessary for the overall story, I can see why they just skipped a month.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. But thank you, Adelia, for joining me. And like I said at the very beginning, if you know, your first time watching our channel, please like and subscribe and hit that button. And we're also on audio form on all the audio formats and everything. We also have a Patreon that you can join for as little as $1. Get you in our Discord, and we talk. Obviously, you see our reviews, you see Schmodown content, wrestling, Star Wars, and all that stuff right there. We do all those things. And we have all those things available, and we just pretty much will talk about almost anything as far as a group. And we got a good team put together, and we want to keep doing this thing. So thank you guys for all the support, even if it's just hitting that subscribe button. Thank you a lot. Trying to reach that 1,000 goal, where we have finally crossed over the 700 mark, which is kind of cool for us. But until next time, guys, peace.